Hello, this is Kyra Magna, and this is Newage David, their version of G1 Optimus Prime. This is the 2023 edition with the updated elbows and a few new accessories. We're going to take a look at him, but first, we're going to take a look at the box. It's a cute Diaclone homage with a ton of product shots all over it, and a nice Sherman Dam picture on the back. And as for accessories, there's a lot to talk about. We'll start off with the hands. You get two of these open hands, again L and R, but this one features a hinge on it, as you can see, which will give you some palm articulation. To attach the hand, you just pull out the default fist hand like so, and then from there you can get the port on the end of the hand and attach it here with a nice wrist articulation. Quick note, if you want to get the wrist articulation inward, you can swivel it out just a little bit like so, and then bend it in and then push it in, and that'll give you just enough so he can sort of do this sort of pose if you're into that sort of thing. But otherwise, it will bend out nicely. The in is nice for a gimmick we're going to take a look at later. Two of these pointing hands. They're fully painted blue outside of the attachment port. I do not quite like the sculpt with the thumb out for these, but otherwise they are quite nice. Which slots in the same way, like so. And it gives a cool pew pew effect. You get Optimus's Energon axe from the Sherman Dam fight in More Than Meets the Eye. It's well sculpted. I really enjoy the rounded edges, and the transparent orange is nice. And just like a hand, you can plug the port on the axe into the forearm like so, and it looks quite gorgeous if you ask me. You of course, obviously also get Optimus Prime's iconic ion blaster. It's a little thin and small sculpt for me, but the finish on the black plastic is nice, and so is the silver accent. And it will, of course, just slot into the fist hand easily, like so. Even if there's a little gap between his hand and where the gun is, which looks a little funky, it's not much else you can do with a character such as this. And you get a Season 1 inspired head sculpt for the figure as well. It's very rounded and it's quite goofy, which I think really works for the figure. Of course, fully painted on the blues and the grays with nice metallic flecked eyes. With the head removed, which requires a little bit of force to get off, you can just attach the ball joint port to the exposed ball joint. Like so. Just a little bit of force required, and it does give a very cute effect. And you also get this more MP44 Transformers the movie inspired head with sharper angles and slightly larger eyes, etc. I think it's quite nice as well, and the deco is the exact same as the last one we looked at. The MP44 head will do the exact same thing, and I think it looks quite nice and I think gentle, which is a good look for the character. And here are the three heads lined up for a quick comparison. We have the MP44 styled one over here to the left. In the middle, the default head that all David releases came with on the original version of this figure. And of course, the Season 1 head over here with the nice rounded features. I think these are really cool options, even if the MP44 versus the standard look are very, very similar. It's nice that it was thought of and you can display it however you wish. You also get the roller, which is a gray unpainted piece of plastic. I think he's quite nice. I quite like the wheels as well on the pins there. And if you want to use this to tow your Optimus Prime trailer, you can flip this section around, exposing this port here, and that will go right into this port on the trailer here. And it will roll quite nicely. You also get this repair drone sort of figure, which is on an unpainted blue base with an armature that will have a few points of articulation, one down, another hinge over, and can collapse up like so. The arm here is on a ball joint and will go up, lift a little left and right, will rotate 360, etc. The other arm is on another ball joint here, which will get you out a little bit, up and around until you bump into the rest of the assembly. And then at the quote-unquote elbow, there is a single joint, even though it's sculpted to look sort of like a double joint, like so, and the claw will open and close on two different little joints for each half of the claw. On top of that, you can detach this entire section. I believe this is supposed to be like something like the floating repair drone that scans the alt modes in the cartoon. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Other than that, the glass piece here, or I suppose transparent plastic resembling glass, will lift up as well if need be. And there's a little seat in there as well. I think that's sort of a diaclone thing for a pilot to be in there. Additionally, you can take the wheels off of the bottom of the trailer. They're just attached by 3 ports, and attach them onto the bottom of this drone. Like so. A little tight, unfortunately, but it's okay because it does end up holding together well, and it will roll as well. It's pretty standard Optimus stuff, nothing to complain about, nothing to be excited about either. And of course, last but definitely not least, we have Optimus Prime's trailer itself. It's cast in this interesting gray plastic, as you can see, that leaves some sort of, I don't know to call it detailings per se, but I suppose like a patterning throughout it. It's this sort of like gunmetal-esque color as well. It looks nice. There's a nice painted stripe, obviously, here as well. Wheels all roll as well. And over here, you can bring these out to the side on a rotating hinge. We'll get you just about up to there, but we're gonna just bring them out to the side, and then these will rotate out, and it can sit on the ground using these. And additionally, in the same vein, you can flip these stand pieces out here, and it will sit on the ground using those as well. Pretty standard stuff. And then, of course, you have the gimmick of the doors being able to open at the back here, which is nice. There's a lot of room in that trailer, as you can see. There's a little tab here that lets you flip out this ramp as well. It can be a little fiddly. There we go. And you can have roller roll into there if you so desire. Speaking of the inside, of course, as any Optimus Prime trailer tends to do, the entire thing will split in half like so. We'll come out a little bit. And then you can stand it up like this. And we'll come out a little bit more. And go up like so. All right. And so from here, you generally want to take the repair drone. As you can see, 3 ports, 3 ports. And push it in, and then this sort of creates Optimus Prime's repair bay, which was kind of something that the original G1 toy did. I don't care for it, but it is there and does need to be mentioned. Overall, quite a nice selection of accessories. Not the most in the world like you've seen with some Optimus Prime releases, such as the original Magic Squared 2.0 release and MP44, etc. But certainly a respectable amount and enough for the average collector. And here is the figure, and he's quite gorgeous, as you can see. The first thing that popped out to me was the nice paint job. Of course, using that vibrant red with the deep metallic blue. The white is unpainted, but it's quite a bright and pure white, so it looks quite nice in contrast to everything else as well. Coming in from the top down, we have a nicely sculpted head, of course. There's some subtle angles on it, and I think it's pretty perfect for the character. Third parties have pretty much nailed the Optimus Prime head sculpts at this point, so it's whatever flavor you like. And of course, this set comes with alternate flavors if you dislike it. And then as you move down, we can see the nice metallic windows with the red paint, and there's little orange accents for the lights here. The matrix is peeking out from inside there, as you can see. Moving down, you have some gray paint for the obligatory stripe on his waist, more red, and then this metallic painted silver vent grill piece rather here. Coming down from there, of course, we have some panel-lined crotch pieces pretty heavily. There's a lot of breakup here, specifically because it is articulated so nicely, so I think it looks fine for what it is. It's a nice, bright, pure white, maybe with a slight bluish hint if you wanted to go in any direction. But of course, then there's the orange accents here. And as you move down, you have these nicely sculpted blue legs. They're a little thin proportionately to me, but I think it's up to interpretation. I think they're pretty close to the model sheet for the cartoon, which is kind of what Newage was going to match. Silver accented tank pieces on the side here of the leg as well. The fists are painted as well and look nice. There are silver smokestacks here with the same painting as the rest of the silver on the figure. And coming around to the back, we have the Optimus Prime backpack, which is nice. Always good to have accurate backs, I think, as well. Accurate from the butt plate as well. And the whole figure is quite smooth and gapless in most areas. There's a little gap on the back of the forearm here, but other than that, you're not going to spot too many gaps. I think that it is quite a successful sculpt. It is not the most heroic sculpt in the world, but it's absolutely not what Newage was going for. So I think they kind of nailed the assignment that they set for themselves. As for gimmicks, we obviously have the opening matrix chamber gimmick that has become pretty standard to any Optimus Prime figure these days. And you can just sort of pry it open a little bit one way or another, and they are just on some rotational joints. And then, as you can see, the matrix is stored inside his chest. If you pop it out like so, we can take a quick look at it. It's painted silver with gold and, of course, the blue accent inside. The other side is just painted silver. It's sculpted well enough for what it is, I think. And as you can see, there is some black detailing in there, along with a few greebles that probably match what it looked like in the movie, but that scene is too sad for me to go back and analyze. And as for articulation, there is a lot to talk about, so we're going to start from the head down, as always. The head is on a ball joint that will look all the way up, teensy hair down, a little bit left and right, and of course 360 swivel. So, you know, pretty much the standard what you need there. The shoulder will come up to about this height, which is fine, with a little bit of a butterfly joint, specifically backwards. Like, you can't really count any for the forwards, but definitely a notable amount backwards on that butterfly, which is always useful. And then, of course, there's bicep rotation at the bicep. And then at the elbow, there is a new joint, which was added to the 2023 version, which will actually give you a double jointed elbow and will let you get the full 180 elbow, which is nice. I definitely appreciate the update. Aside from that, the wrists, you know, I mean, they're obviously on a swivel because they're separate pieces that are on a round port, so that makes sense. So, you know, pretty solid overall for that sort of upper body section. And then, of course, here we have a waist swivel that will get you 360 degrees. Perfect. And then from there, you actually have an ab crunch that will get you... Oh, okay. You have an ab crunch with a large sculpt break that will get you about 90 degrees. And then on top of that, as you can see, there's some die cast in here. And that's because, just like on the Magnus mold, which had different ab crunch joint, there's another joint here you can pull out. And forgive me, my figure is coming a little untabbed. Ugh. It's a little tight on the die-cast joint there, and it's attached to the assembly that holds the wheels in place. So it does make it a little rough to handle, as you can see. But you can use this extra ab crunch joint to do an alternative way to ab crunch, like so. And then and when you come down to the legs here, you get like a crotch crunch, which is kind of used like an ab crunch. So basically, if you need work to make this figure bend over in any particular way, you're going to be able to find a joint to use it. It's pretty useful to combine usage of the three joints in some fashion so that you can sort of get the minimum amount of sculpt break on each, and depending on the sort of pose you're going for and what sort of dynamism you want. Anyway, so a lot in that to talk about in that regard, but coming down to the legs here, you're going to have a 90-degree out on the leg to the front, with the hip skirt moving out of the way, of course. And we're going to move the other hip skirt out of the back, and you get about this much backwards, which is quite a lot, to be honest with you. You can even move the crotch crunch joint forward and then move the leg even further back to get pretty much the 90-degree angle there. And of course, vice versa, you actually can use that joint to get what appears to be a much higher kick, like so, as you can see, with less sculpt break in the crotch section, but a higher kick. And then, of course, a mess back here, but you know, you can make it work if you so desire for a photo or a shelf pose. And then, as you can see, there's side skirting, which will come out and let you get 90 degrees out as well. Absolutely nothing to complain about in that regard. I really like the leg articulation and crotch articulation that Newage put in to this entire section. It's very well put together. And then coming down, you have a thigh swivel that will get you 360. Do note that the thigh swivel, if you try and swivel it without moving it out of the way of the blue section underneath here, is going to not be able to swivel as nice as you'd like, which can hinder a very small number of poses, but I did try that and I couldn't, which was very unfortunate. Anyhow, coming down to the knee here, you're going to have a 90-degree joint right here, or just past 90, whatever, it doesn't really matter because you're going to use the other joint here to get, you know, past 90, and it's gonna look quite nice, to be honest with you. The anti-sculpt breaking measure of popping out this knee decal is a little, I mean, it's being used for Optimus figures in the past, but I think that this is probably the best look that it's ever had. I'm such a big fan of this knee bend. It gets pretty deep, and the lack of sculpt break is actually super admirable. Really big fan. Some of the articulation engineering on this figure is absolutely genius, and I have to commend it quite highly. And then, of course, coming down to the feet, there is also a decent amount. Your standard 90-degree, or not even 90, it's actually less than 90, but, you know, when do you need full 90 on the ankle here, ankle tilt? And if you wiggle it a little bit, you can get some reverse ankle tilt as well, which I actually ended up using, so I find it pretty useful. And because it's on a ball joint, you get like a little wiggle forward and back if you need that sort of thing, but you know, whatever, it doesn't really make much of a difference. And then the toe can actually become detached for a nice toe tilt, which if you leave it like this, looks gorgeous. Look at that curve. But you can also push it further if you need something like, say, a crouching pose or similar. So absolutely fantastic on the joint usage over there. And that pretty much covers the entire figure's articulation. It is fantastic. I'm so impressed. This might be maybe the most articulated Newage figure that I have handled to date. The articulation engineering is really strong on those anti-sculpt break measures, like I mentioned. I'm very, very impressed with the articulation. He's a blast to handle. He will sort of melt into any pose that you wish for him. Highly rate, probably 10 out of 10 when it comes to articulation for sure. And as for some size comparisons, we're going to start off with the obvious one. Here is the 2.0 Magic Square Optimus Prime. The main difference that you're going to see pop out to you immediately is this gorgeous lick of paint over this. The sculpts are quite similar. And of course, the Newage one measures in just a little bit shorter. And here he is with Magic Square's take on Megatron. So, you know, he's still a little bit shorter. I've got him opposed a little bit, so it's not even his full height, of course. But, you know, it's just a Newage Magic Square scaling issue that we've seen in the past. Here he is with Newage's take on Bumblebee, their 2.0 version as well. So, you know, the scale on that works pretty well. It's pretty perfect when it comes to the scale chart, etc. Here he is with Newage's take on Nightbird. So that gives you an idea for the scale measurements for RC as well, of course. And here he is with Magic Square's take on Jazz for a cardboard comparison, of course. Little tall for the scale sheet, but I do not like how the scale sheet scales Carbots. As you've seen, the Newage Carbots are quite small. I think that the scale of this figure works pretty well for Newage or Magic Square, though I don't think you can particularly go wrong unless you are painstakingly trying to adhere to the Sunbow scale chart. Alright, and as for the transformation, I actually think that this figure has a very fun transformation. So basically you kind of explode the entire top assembly, pulling out the chest and the wheels, his waist, the back, and then you start to just fold everything back together. And not quite going inside out like you might get on a Masterpiece scale figure or on a Magic Square, but a lot of exploding nonetheless. He does have the faux chest, though, in the front there that you actually have to replace with the one that ends up being used for the alt mode, which has much thinner sort of windows on it, and I think that it looks fine. Anyhow, you sort of fold up the arms. Optimus Prime's transformation has not really changed too much over the years. You always fold up the arms to create the sides. The chest, in some fashion, will become the front, etc. So then you just basically put together a box. There's some nice opening windows in there as well that you have to close up to finish it off. The legs are a little bit rougher, I will say. You end up rotating things around 3 or 4 times through the duration of it. First at like the crotch, and then the thigh, and then the lower leg, etc. And then from there you kind of panel explode and turn everything there inside out, actually this time, because you're going to want to just pull those wheels out and whatnot, which we'll clean up a little later. But then the feet are also a bit of a mess because they're like on like 3 hinges or something. So they take me a minute to always figure out the orientation. Plus you have to fold in the heel spur and whatnot. But then you kind of just do the same thing on both legs either way. And I mean, look, it's not the cleanest transformation for the legs in the world, but it certainly achieves both effects, and it isn't particularly frustrating. It's just a little convoluted, but I don't think you can really streamline something so cartoon accurate anyway. So, you know, is there really a problem there? You'll know when it's all together in the end anyhow. It's a little fine, but it's a nice effect. Anyhow, I'm going to clean it up in a second and we'll take a look at it. All right, and here is the truck mode. It is quite nice if you ask me at a glance. The paint, once again, shining through quite gorgeously on every angle. There's some nice mechanical detailing across the sides here. Transparent side windows and front windows give a nice realistic look to the entire thing, which I think looks very clean. There's some silver detailing all over the front, which is also quite a nice accent because you'll notice there's no gray stripe on this, which is fine. I don't really need the gray stripe, but as it's only shown up sometimes in the cartoon, most of the time it is not, as it wasn't actually on the animation model most of the time. Anyhow, and coming around to the back here, you can see the crotch piece is stored up in here, so it's a little messy in that sense. The back of the truck here is also quite clean as well. And of course, there is quite a nice truck bed. Most of these truck beds tend to be paneling messes in a lot of senses, but this looks all fine. When you come to the feet, though, is when it starts to fall off in that regard. As you can see, there's just a lot of mess at the back there. Across the side here, there's a little gap here where there should probably be some more blue, maybe even across this entire side. I don't mind the white poking through, but, you know, whatever. It's not quite cartoon accurate just because of the level of real-world detailing to the side of this truck here and, of course, on the front. Quick look at the bottom. It's just, it's kibble. It's fine. The wheels are nice, and he rolls pretty strongly. I think that the boxiness of it could be, like, you know, a little wider. But, you know, I mean, it looks fine from most angles. And I think that it's pretty successful as an Optimus Prime alt mode. Of course, as with any Optimus Prime, you can use this port and this port here to attach these two together like so. And we'll zoom out just a little bit there, which looks, you know, it looks nice when you have them together. They will roll together. There, you can sort of articulate on the turn. You know, it works quite well. I really like this look as an Optimus Prime. There just isn't a lot to talk about because it kind of just hits the nail on the head. You can't really nitpick an alt mode as much as you can a bot mode. For a quick size comparison, here it is on top of the Magic Square. Here's the Magic Square 2.0. Here is the Newage. So notably smaller in pretty much every way. And I think as we come around to the front here, my Magic Square trailer is actually disconnecting a little bit. That thing is a little bit fiddly. But yeah, you'll just notice that the whole cab is quite a bit smaller as well between the two. Here he is with the Newage Ultra Magnus inner bot in alt mode. So they actually are notably different in a lot of ways in the truck mode. Just in the way, the fact that the way the legs are constructed and the back of the cab here as well. I prefer the look of this one sort of for the legs in a lot of ways, just because of the lack of the feet. But I prefer the look of the cab on this one. So give and take. Here he is real quick with a Magic Square Datsun as well. So, you know, I mean, not alt mode scaled because nothing is, but it looks fine to me. As for my final thoughts on this figure, we're going to start with some of the negatives. There aren't a lot to talk about on this figure. I think that maybe we could have seen a couple more alternate hands, just considering how iconic the character is. There's a lot of hands that you could use for a bunch of different scene recreations, etc. But I think that the selection that they did give you are at least very strong. There's a couple gaps in the sculpt as well, like the back of the forearm and a couple cuts for tabs and whatnot that are a little ugly but aren't a deal breaker on any part of them. And a weird one is that you can't fit a standard sized carbot inside the trailer, which I really wish you could. I think that they were trying to go for an accurate trailer to cab proportion, but either way, that is a negative to be noted. As for the positives, the sculpt is fantastic. I love the look of it in bot mode. It is quite a G1 accurate look with a unique take on Optimus's proportions, and you get a variety of options for the head sculpt as well. The articulation is on point, a 10 out of 10. Absolutely everything you could need and then some. And of course, as well, the paint and materials are amazing. The figure is fun to handle and the transformation is great. The price is fantastic, coming in I think about $70 to $75 on ShowZ, which is where I picked up this figure. I can highly recommend this figure for any collector in any deco, I think, especially with these reissued upgraded arms. I think that this figure is a staple of any collection. Coming in with just everything you could possibly want in a release, this would be a proud centerpiece Optimus Prime for a Legends collection. Other than that, though, I have been Kyra Magna. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya!